It's never a waste of time to make time for the truth. A moment spent listening and paying attention to the truth can change your life. So let's take a moment for the truth. Psalms 119:34 says, "Give me understanding so that I may comply with your law and keep it with all my heart." The express need of the psalmist continues from the previous verse, where the writer asked to be taught. This verse expands or intensifies that earlier prayer. The writer asked the Lord for a clarity that comes from a comprehensive understanding of the law of God. In this case, the law is the Torah, the contents of God's word to his people. The writer wants to be informed and comprehend what God has declared. That request acknowledges that it is from God's word and that he can receive what is needed in his life above all other understanding. This is the purpose and the request of this verse. And although it is personal, it's not driven by selfish wants or personal appetites. Instead, it's in keeping with the will of God. Perhaps you've heard of those who proclaim that God will answer any prayer that they ask in faith. You may also notice that there's an absence for the necessity in such a prayer of being in accordance with God's purposed will. God will hear and answer the prayer that complies with his will. His will is the supreme consideration in prayer. And this is what the writer of this psalm is requesting. The purpose for the request is for understanding God's law. And it's twofold. The first is so that he would comply with the law of God. It's wise to admit that we need to comply with God's law. I mean, what is the alternative? Disobedience? That's not a smart or safe choice. No, wisdom in God's law makes it obvious concerning the benefits that come from observing and keeping God's direction. It's the choice of the wise. But this psalm also points out that it can't be motivated simply out of some sense of or a sake for safety. Such a motivation still smacks of selfish intentions. And it's clear that that's not what's in play here. The writer states that the second purpose for his request to understand God's law, and he states it, he says that he wants to keep it with all my heart. He wants to make it of central importance. Do you remember how David was referred to in 1 Samuel 3:14? The Lord has sought for himself a man after his own heart. This is what the writer is saying in this request. He's asked the Lord to give him understanding. And the reason he wants it is so that he will comply with God's law and that he will guard it with his entire heart. There's nothing shallow about this entire request or verse. And I'm very certain that the answer from God to such a request will not be superficial or lacking. What will you ask of God today? Is it in keeping with the desire of God? Think about it. And think about why you asked for it. It only takes a moment, but it will be a moment that will matter. Thanks for watching and listening to Truth Matters Moment. Also, don't forget to look for our weekly podcast called Truth Matters. It comes out every Wednesday. Catch you later.